Hello, everyone. Welcome to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group. I get to be your host today. We want to start off by thanking our sponsors, Weave a Real Piece. Weave a Real Piece is an international, excuse me, international textile organization with the mission of empowering weaving communities worldwide. And we are so excited to have them as a sponsor again. They've been a good support of Textiles and Tea. So thank you, Weave a Real Piece. We appreciate you being our sponsor today. As always, we ask you to put the questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. We love your comments in the chat. Those are wonderful, but I can't always see the question if they're in there. So if you put them in the Q&A, I'll get to as many of them as I can. Today, we have Ruth Hallows. Ruth is an award-winning textile artist in the Chilkat and Ravenstail traditions of Northwest coastal people. She employs the Tlingit and Haida protocols she inherited from her mentor weavers and seeks to recover the Tsimshian way of being through the continued research in institutional and non-traditional archives. And she shares the skills and training she's gathered in these workshops, presentations, and lectures. She maintains a daily practice of Chilkat and Ravenstail weaving. And we are so excited to have her here today. Hello, Ruth.
Hi, I'm having a hard time turning my camera on.
Okay.
I pressed the buttons 3 times and there we go.
There we go. Yay. Ruth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, Ksm Lx'sg dawayu, gan hada diptegu dawapch gamich, get land gautsabu, Tsimshianu. Susan Reese, wanadi agwian zietsu, maslachetla dawatgit. Dorothy Hayward, wanadi issue, shu matlaketla will dawatgit. Shudath eda witatni neath wuem denoyu, ketchikan de wawatgit. Scotland de will showatgu. Tacoma, Washington, de wawatgu eda lachubum othum eda peepash dot so go getwin. I appreciate the time to use my full formal introduction. I'm called Woman of the Cedar Mat. I come from the Raven clan of the House of Gamach of the Gitlan village. I am Tsimshian, which is a people indigenous to the river and coastal waterways of the Pacific Northwest. My great-grandmother was Susan Reese. She was born in Machlakachla in British Columbia. My grandmother is Dorothy Hayward. She was born in New Metlakatla, that was established in Southeast Alaska. My mom holds 2 names, New Dear One and Many Fins in the Water. She was born in Ketchikan, and I also said that I come out of a House of Scotland. My dad is Umshua, so he is a white guy that my mom met when her family moved to Northern California. And I like to honor all parts of my heritage. I also, as part of my introduction, shared that I was born in Tacoma, Washington, and I currently live on Otham and Peepaw traditional lands near Phoenix, Arizona.
Thank you for sharing that. The language was so beautiful. It was just poetic. Thank you so much for doing that. That's wonderful. So let's get to the important question. What is your favorite tea?
Okay, I've been thinking about this because I
Oh, no,
know
no,
that
not that.
it's the first question. Um, and my daily cup, almost every day I start the day with a cup or a pot of Irish breakfast tea. And then whatever else is my favorite changes seasonally. Right now I'm drinking white tea blended with apricot and rose hips.
Ooh,
That's the iced tea of the moment.
that sounds refreshing. Well, tell
Yeah.
us how you got started in fiber.
So my grandmothers, both on my mom and my dad's side, and my mom all invited me and encouraged me to be into fiber as a child. The biggest piece I ever crocheted was a shoelace, and the the most useful thing I ever sewed was a pillowcase about this large. And I really didn't get into fiber until 2019, 2020, when I was looking for ways to connect with my heritage from where I reside on in Arizona. And I actually bought a last minute ticket to fly to Seattle and participate in a 2-hour workshop where I learned to make a cedar rope necklace from Janice Lonergan. Uh, and about a year, I thought that would be the only connection that I'd have to our ways of weaving.
Uh-huh.
Workshops that I flew to and spent a day at most, and then flew back home. And then a pandemic happened, and people in Southeast Alaska and all over the world quickly developed ways to share knowledge online. I've been weaving ever since.
Oh, that's great. That's the old lemonade out of lemons. That good thing came out of COVID for you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this is an image. I love this image. This is an image of your great grandfather wearing one of the dancing ceremony robes. Um, After you started weaving, or maybe I have this backwards. I know that research and weaving went hand in hand for you. So would you share about, well, first of all, tell us how the knowledge of the weaving somehow disappeared or went away.
Yeah. I am Aeltkanu. I'm fortunate. I did start weaving before I began my research, but when indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest in the river and coastal waterways, the Tsimshian, Tlingit, Haida people, and our neighbors, including the Niska and the Hai and the Gitxsan people, we encountered settler colonialists who came to our land. Some of them were very excited about some of our art forms and collected them, placed them in institutions around the world. But there was a large draw for our people to become part of what is now conventional society. Um, and and actually in Canada, it was outlawed to weave in this way. Laws were passed that made it punishable by imprisonment to participate in the Indian ceremony called potlatch, or to support it even indirectly by weaving. Um, those similar laws were also enacted in the United States, and they weren't repealed until the 1980s. In Canada, those laws have not been repealed. They are still on the books, but they are not currently enforced.
They're
So
still on the books?
they are, yeah.
I can't believe that.
The Tsimshian people divided. Some people stayed in Metlakatla, and those who remained on our traditional lands in British Columbia released this type of weaving by force of law. And those of my ancestors who traveled to Alaska and established New Metlakatla, they made an intentional exchange in exchange for releasing our ceremony, our songs, our dance, our carvings, our weavings. We could maintain our language and raise our children until they completed 8th grade. So
Oh
that,
my
that was a
gosh.
choice my great grandmother and the councils of Sigidam Hananach the high-ranking women made together with our spokesman chief to release this type of weaving so that we could stay together as families.
That's a horrible sacrifice to have to make. That's just amazing. I had no idea. I knew that a lot of traditions in a lot of different groups have gone away, but I didn't realize they were outlawed. That's amazing. Ugh. Well, the robes that you are learning to weave or that you have been weaving, they're not on a regular floor loom. And I think we have an image of it here. And you have one behind you, right?
I
Also?
do, yeah.
Okay. So here's the first image we're going to take a look at. So they're not like a typical floor loom, and they're not really like a tapestry loom, right? You start weaving at the top and then it kind of hangs down. Is it more of a twining and knotting rather than a weaving or a combination?
So I think of it as weaving but I've looked up the definition of the word, and technically the skill that we used is hand twining.
Okay.
And you're right, it's not on a tension loom at all. These warps are free hanging, and all of the vertical and horizontal tension that is in our artwork is developed by the weaver puts that in with her hands alone. We don't use any
Wow.
tools. It's me directly connected to the warp and the weft that creates every piece that I weave.
Now, did you know this style of weaving before you did the research, or did this come out of the research?
I learned to weave before I began doing any research. I was very
Okay.
fortunate that University of Alaska started offering online courses. And then At Lily Hope, who's one of my mentors, she was offering a way for weavers to learn and connect weekly through a Zoom meeting. And I knew that as I was learning to weave, what I was receiving the protocols and the ways of being in good relationship with the weaving, I was inheriting those protocols from Tlingit and Haida people. So after I began to weave, I wanted to know how to weave in a good way in a Tsimshian way. And that's what really started my research into our language and also into the history of our weavings.
Was it difficult to get the information you were looking for, to find the history, to find the resources?
It's ongoing. It's difficult in that to get to the places where I need to go to talk to the people I want to talk to.
Hmm.
It's typically 3 days of travel. I fly from my home to a large international airport. From that airport, I go to a smaller local airport and then sometimes a float plane or a ferry. I've been seeking to speak with all of the first language speaking elders of the Ksm Lx'g language. When I started my research, there were 60 of those speakers. Today, there are 58. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'm hoping to get everywhere I need to go real quickly so I can
Yes.
talk to all of our elders.
Oh, man. Well, the one thing I was I was looking at the weavings that you have, and there's a rhyme and reason to the pattern, right? Like the design consists of a primary ovoid. I had to look that up. That's an egg shape. So for those you don't know what it is, I looked it up for you. It's an ovoid, it's an egg shape. And that and what I loved about it was that it's kind of a continuous thing. You said that the ovoid, the main one, influences all the things around it, all the shapes, all the designs around it, and that they in turn influence that main ovoid also. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I wrote about this significantly when I wrote about my research and how much our view is recorded and encapsulated in our art. And talking about primary and secondary ovoids primarily refers to form line design, which you might be really familiar with if you've seen totem poles or our drums. I'm going to hold up my
Oh,
drum
good.
for you here. And we would call this the primary ovoid, the first shape, and that influences the rest of the design here.
Uh-huh.
And then there are secondary, smaller pieces, and third, tertiary ovoids that all influence the design as a whole.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that really speaks to the way that our view of the world, uh, and or an aspect of it, we call it simultaneity, or there's the English word simultaneity that talks about how everything is whole in itself and part of a greater whole, and we all influence each other. And then this style of weaving, what we have on the screen is a gwish or which is the Tsimshian word for Chilkat dancing blanket. And those shapes are two-dimensional representations of the form line design that you would see in our carvings and our paintings. Yeah.
Now, and these are the ovoid shapes like the whole face, or is it like the mouth or the eyes?
If you see the upside down eyes in the yellow field,
Uh-huh.
that those would that shape is two-dimensional representation of an ovoid. And
Okay.
then inside the palms of the hands, there are small ovoids as well.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So in a Chilkat weaving, this one is like a center panel with two side panels. Um, and the ovoid isn't the first part of the design in this. This one is a learning piece. I wove it over about 9 months, 11 months, together with
Wow.
mentorship, direct mentorship from Wishkandane to Lily Hope in a community of weavers who were all learning this same design. We have protocols of reciprocity and balance where if we were all weaving actual design that represented a crest, it would have created a lot of imbalance. So this was specifically designed to kind of be, oh, Dunedin had a name for it, like open source or open source access design
Uh-huh.
that we could weave without upsetting the balance between our moieties.
Well, can you talk
Yeah.
about the color? Because I think I've seen these yellows and blues in other pieces also. Are they significant to the overall design?
Well, the colors that we use historically and the colors in this piece in particular
Uh-huh.
are hand dyed with plants and other resources that are indigenous to the places where our people reside. You don't see a lot of red in Gwish or Chilkat dancing blankets because we didn't have access to plants or animals or other resources that would dye things red. Um, these are actually dyed with wolf moss, some of them with historically, before you could buy ammonia, we would make ammonia by fermenting the urine of prepubescent boys that would make the brightest possible blue and mix that with copper. So these wefts were hand dyed for me by Wishkandane Lily Hope.
Oh, wow. Where is the blue from? What brings the blue?
Oh, I think that's the urine and the
Oh, is it?
copper. I
Oh, okay.
haven't done any of the traditional hand dyeing yet. I need to be able to find my way to Juneau for a
Oh,
weekend workshop so that I can learn.
well, that's good to know that the colors represent what is around you, what is local. That those
Yeah.
are the colors. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that. Well, one thing I was so impressed with when I was reading about your work and what you're trying to do is that you want to teach people to weave, but you said as you're just as adamant about teaching people to teach as you are about teaching them to weave. Can you say more about that?
Oh, absolutely. In 2019, there were fewer than a dozen weavers in the world who had woven a Ravenstail Chilkat dancing robe. By a celebration that we had just last year in Juneau, there were 4 times as many, but that's even 40 or 50 people in the world who hold these skills and have this knowledge is not very many.
No.
And for us, the the perpetuation and the heritable knowledge that's available to our people is important to perpetuate that. I learned from my weaving mentor, every weaver a teacher, um, and and I try to instill that in every workshop, whether that's here. The image on the screen is the first workshop held in Ravenstail weaving in the southernmost of 7 Tsimshian villages in British Columbia. This is in Klim2, which is the Kittiso High Nation. And even in that very first workshop, people were supporting each other. If you understood a skill, you taught it to the person next to you and shared that knowledge. And that is the beginning of every weaver a teacher. So.
Well, I have to ask this because it's really become a touchy subject for some people. It's very important to others. And that is, how do you feel about teaching this type of weaving and the theme to non-Native Americans?
Absolutely. So we have two different styles of weaving that are indigenous
Mhm.
to our people. There's the raven's tail and the chilkat weaving. Raven's tail is very geometric in form. I have a headband I'm weaving as a learning piece to teach people. And you can see the
Oh,
design motif. It's repeated lines. It's very geometric. And this type of weaving actually slept for 200 years. Part of that was we were weaving robes in a combinational style that had both Ravenstail and Chilkat techniques. Part of that was commercial influence.
mhm.
When we started encountering settler colonialists and also those who came to collect our goods and share them with the world, they really, really preferred to purchase Chilkat style weavings. So we tended to make more of them. So part of our skills were lost in part due to that influence. Part of it was commercial influence and um, Raven's tail weaving was actually awakened. We call it sleeping and awakened by a woman. Her name Cheryl Samuels. We have Cheryl Samuel, no S at the end. We held a celebration for her work and the work of um, one of her students who became my first weaving teacher, Kay Field Parker. Both Shoah women, both women who were not descended from our nation, but they had access to the museums and had access to our weavings in a way that they could go and study and they came back to our people and worked with cedar weavers and spruce root basketry weavers to reverse engineer this raven's tail style of weaving
Mhm.
because it came to us through the hands of people other than our own. And because we're so joyful that it's home again in the hands of our teachers, we share it with anyone.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I would teach any person who is interested in raven's tail weaving to weave. Chilkat weaving, on the other hand, is a closed ceremonial practice.
Oh,
If
okay.
you are familiar, there are other religions or ceremonies that people hold close to themselves. I would never ask to enter a Jewish temple and go to the Holy of Holies. And I would expect in that same way that the skills and the knowledge to weave Chilkat dancing blankets and the ability to wear them and dance them would be respected in the same way.
Well, let me make sure I got this correct. The headband that you showed us, that is the Raven's tail, right?
Yes, this is
Okay.
one raven's tail design. It's called returning salmon. They look like little fishies.
Oh, yeah. Well, hang on to that because we're going to have questions about that later. Because people want to know how you start the weaving, and I'm curious too to see that wood piece. But we'll come back to that. I want to talk about one of your pieces that you did, and this work is called Unmasking a Chilkat Inspired Self-Portrait. And this was actually, it's in the Small Expressions for this year, 2025. So
It
if you're
is.
in the area and it's traveling near you, go check this out. Would you talk about this work? Just tell us all about it.
Yeah. My weaving mentor, Wishkindane Da'at Lily Hope, and she's been much more than a weaving mentor, but also uh, artist mentor and a friend, and just she's helping me figure out how to have a career as an artist and also be a participating member of our nation and of our nations and our people. And at one point, she challenged me to take one day a week to not do any work on my career as an artist. Um, I didn't think I could do that. So I gave myself a 24-hour period. So it wasn't a calendar day. It was on Fridays, from Fridays at 5 p.m. till Saturday at 5 p.m. I did no work on my career as an artist. Um, but that meant that I couldn't be weaving on the blankets that I was preparing for things. It meant that I couldn't be working on so many of the projects around my house. And I will go mad if I'm not weaving every day. So I decided to weave something just for myself. Um, and the if we look back at the Chilkat dancing robe that I wove and other Chilkat dancing robes, a profile face with a mask on it, and or what's it called when you look portrait face with a mask on it is a recurring motif in our weavings.
Hmm.
Um, but as I was coming to learn to weave, I was also making a lot of other changes in my life, coming to be comfortable in my own skin as a human being. And I felt like I was taking a lot of masks off that I grew up feeling like I had to hide parts of myself to fit into different parts of communities. um, and as I was learning to weave, I was also learning to be whole as a person. So I decided to weave a piece that would represent me personally taking my masks off. Um, I wove this two-part piece that's all one part, actually, that it opens and removing the mask for myself to present part of who I am. So I
Wow.
spent a
That's a
good 4 months weaving this on in my free time on Fridays and Saturdays.
that's a big share. That's really sharing a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Was it unnerving? Did you feel,
To weave it?
yeah, or
Not
to
at
show
all.
it?
Oh, it was so exciting to
Oh,
weave it.
good.
And it's really incredible to me how much I showing up as my whole self creates space where people feel welcome and invited to show up as their own whole selves. I think everybody masks a little bit. And I don't have to be all of myself in every space because there's not room for all of that. Here I'm a weaver and I'll talk about being a mother in other places, but I also don't have to hide who I am in order to connect here. And I think it was really exciting to weave this because I had come to learn that truth and I was recording that history with my hands.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I just can't wait to see it. We've added in the chat where it's going to be. So if you're at Convergence, and if you're not, there's other places that you can see it. So, but I
Oh,
can't
did
wait
it
to
show
see.
it Convergence in 2026? That's
Um,
exciting.
I think I'm saying that right. I might be lying. I'm looking at the schedule
Okay.
because it's going to be in Linden, Washington. It's going to be in, no, it's not at Convergence. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
lied. But you will be.
No, but yes, I will be. And there will be another small expressions. The 2026 small expressions will be at Convergence 2026. I'm
Right.
excited to see what other people submit.
Well, what I guess I'm trying to figure out how to ask this. Was there a pushback from adding your own design, either from outside or inside? Because it
Not at
sounds
all.
like the designs are pretty set how they should be. And it sounds like you kind of broke outside of that and did your own thing.
Yeah, I haven't heard from anybody being upset about it being non-traditional, particularly the colors. But I also haven't tried to present it as if it were regalia. It's
Oh,
an art piece, and I have not said that it is a piece of Gwishalite. To me, it is not Nachain. It's not a Chilkat piece. It's Chilkat inspired piece. So I've used the techniques to create a piece of art rather than creating a ceremonial dance blanket. However, there are ceremonial dance blankets that are woven in pride colors, and there has been no pushback for those either. One
good.
of them resides and dances in Juneau. It was the work of like 5 mentor artists and communities weaving it together. I wove a tiny little corner one time when I was up visiting, and it lives at the Jack Gordon Youth Center. I believe I have the name of that correctly.
Okay.
And they are currently also working on a Ravenstail robe, and both of those to be used at community events and in pride circles, and just as sign and a signal of our welcome to all people, all identities of people.
As you've talked, and I've read a lot of this when I was doing research on you, was that the not only do you want to learn how about the weaving, but you wanted to know about the language. And I guess the language was lost to a lot of people also. And that you've stated that the language is essential to the weaving. Can you explain that so we'll understand that?
Absolutely. So the Tsimshian people and our neighboring nations, we thrived in the river and coastal waterways of the Pacific Northwest for millennia. We co-created ways of being human in relationship with our plant, animal, land, and water relatives. And the language was co-created as well. Our ways of being, our ways of seeing the world, our ways of seeing. In Ksm Lx'sg, we don't have a word for art. There is no
Huh.
such word, there is no such thing that is art, which is separate from the other parts of life. We do have Gishgaldump, which means like a design or a picture, or um, and we do have a word for our blankets. But art is not a thing separate. It is incorporated completely into our ways of being. And having the language helps us have a connection to the worldview and the priorities of that were co-created on our ancestral lands for millennia.
Hmm.
It's also a really fun way to practice Somalia if you're talking about twisting or folding with your right hand or folding with your left hand, learning Medikietwin and Shimyetwin. And it's just, it's a good way to uphold both ways of being. For me, this art is not separate from being Tsimshian. It is one aspect of being Tsimshian. And the same thing with the language.
Oh. So obviously there's enough people that are learning the language or know the language that you can practice it because you seem to do it quite eloquently. I mean, you just seem to flow with it. I mean, not that I know what it
I,
sounds like or what you're
yeah,
saying, but it sounds
yeah.
great.
Oh, direction. Yeah, I'm very fortunate that gosh, I started trying to teach myself the language in maybe 2010, 2011, and I purchased all the materials that I was aware of, and I made like no progress in about 7 or 8 years. But then, in the same way that people's reactions and responses to the pandemic afforded me access to weaving, to learning our weaving skills, that also provided my first
Mm.
opportunities to speak our language in connection with other language users and language learners. And I'm really fortunate that for the first year and a half of lockdown, I was in Somali language um, opportunities no less than 7 days a week,
Oh,
sometimes as many as 9 or 10 times a week. I was connected in the language and learning together with other people who really wanted to know. Um, and and I get to work directly one-on-one with one of our first language speaking elders, Shugaina Donna Mae Roberts. For the last couple of years, I've been her TA and office assistant. So I'm Aplukalai Eltkanu. I'm so incredibly fortunate to have access to these skills and this training.
oh, it's so funny how you've managed to seek out and find what you need. I mean, from these different people and being an assistant and everything you've done. Which the other thing, which leads me into this next thing, is that you are restoring some of the Ravenstail robes, right? Is it Ravenstail?
Yeah,
Okay,
Ravenstail. Yeah. So I personally, together with help from my oldest child, we are restoring one. There
one.
are 15 historical Ravenstail robes that exist in the world today. All 15 of those exist in the collections of museums and institutions, only most of them in Europe and in Russia.
Really?
Yes, and a few of them closer to home. Um,
Hmm.
those 15 robes were the subject of study by Cheryl Samuel, and she wrote a book called The Raven's Tale. It is out of print and fairly expensive if you can find an issue, but she wrote in detail about all 15 of those robes. Because those robes exist in museum collections, we were able to reverse engineer this way of weaving, and we have these skills. Also, because they exist in collections around the world, we don't have access to dance them. So, to together with my oldest, we are one team among more than 20 weavers who are working to symbolically rematriate the robes. We're each weaving replicas and we'll bring them home to dance and ceremony. This is one of them. You're getting a sneak peek at the back of a robe
Ooh.
where all the little wefts are poking out. I've got a lot of finishing work to do on this corner. But I had some help from Sarah Keltsunis and Janice Lonergan, who helped put a lot of the braids up for me already.
Wow.
Yeah.
You saw it here first, folks. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's pretty exciting. So how long before it will make its debut?
My oldest and I started weaving this robe in April, March of this year. And our goal is to complete it by September, maybe early October of 2026. There will be a gathering of the robes envisioned by Wishkandane Da'at Lily Hope. Last year in April, we had event celebrating the history and future of Yeskau, which is the Tlingit language words for Ravenstail weaving. And she has envisioned a gathering of all of the Northwest coastal peoples' weavings and robes, the largest in recorded history. So if you come to Juneau with us in October of 2026, you'll see Chilkat robes, Ravenstail robes, cedar dance regalia, Coast Salish weaving, and many other types of our traditional art forms.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Oh, that sounds so tempting. That's wonderful. Well, you're going to be teaching at Convergence, as I mentioned a while ago. What are you going to be teaching at Convergence?
I'm teaching two different programs. One of them where I'll talk about the history and the current status of Chilkat and Ravenstail weaving. And then the other one, so that's a lecture format. There will be question and answer. But if you wanted to do something hands-on, I'm also teaching a Chilkat warp wrapping workshop. And we'll have an in-depth look at some of the historical and modern Chilkat regalia, especially the tunics, and then weavers and fiber artists will learn a finishing technique that we use to ensure that the warps don't unravel. And then you can use that technique on whatever fiber arts that you enjoy, where you have free hanging, just loose warp. If you want to wrap it to keep it secure, you can use that with any art form you desire.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I would love to see that. Both of them. I would love to hear the lecture too. That sounds fascinating. We're excited you're going to be at Convergence.
Me too. I've never been. I'm really excited. This is
Oh,
gonna be my
good, good,
first time
good.
to Convergence.
Oh, good, good. Hope you have a great time. So, what else is next for you?
The very next thing, a lot of my research was supported by 2024 in 2024 by a craft research fellowship by the Center for Craft.
Oh, okay.
And they provided funds that allowed me to travel and provide honoraria to the first language speaking elders that I spoke with. And they are hosting, beginning this month, 20 a celebration of their 20th year of their craft research fund. And I am one of the artists who's been invited to the exhibition Archives in Practice. So you can see a full set of regalia that it starts when I was a student, still learning from K. Field Parker. And then the most recent piece I completed uh, last month, like
Oh,
right
wow.
before I had to put it in a box and send it away. So it is a record of my personal 4 years of weaving journey and uses designs that I adapted from traditional patterns to record the strength of all of my sisters and the Siganam Hananach, the women around me, and their strength. It's called Our Matriarchs Endow Our Strength. And and the next thing will be being there. And and as a fiber artist who just recently discovered that I can geek out about just about any type of art form, I'd love to know more about my Scottish ancestry and our traditional fiber arts. And I know the first thing to say is that I'd like to weave a tartan. And while I would like to do that, I would also like to know, why is that the first thing I think of? And are there other things I should be thinking of? So I've been looking up like Scottish ancestry. There's a place in downtown Phoenix that one day I'm going to drive over and introduce myself and say, help me find my family. So,
So, where is this gathering from the Craft Center? American
the
Craft
Center
Center.
for Craft is
Center for Craft.
in Asheville, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
I think they're in Asheville.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And the exhibit will be there from September of this year. I think the opening, what do you call it when you have a celebration of the opening of an exhibit and like you have an open house? There's a word
Right.
for that.
Right.
Yeah, the opening night is September 18th.
The
So,
reception, the
like,
opening
yes,
reception.
reception. Thank you. Sometimes I have a hard time with words.
Don't we
Opening
all? Don't we
reception,
all?
but they just announced the doors of their galleries just closed today, and they'll reopen September 11th for the exhibit to open, and then the opening reception September 18th.
Okay. I'm sure somebody is looking it up right now. Here we go. The
Oh,
Center for Craft, the website is now in the chat. If you want to look at it and get the information about the exhibit and how you can go see it. So, and the reception. So it's only 3 hours from me. I may have to check this out. That would be
oh,
lovely.
nice.
I know. Mm. Well, we have lots of questions. Let's take some questions. How about that? This is from Liz. Hi, Liz. Um, do you know if your type of weaving or knotting is related to the Maori knotted twining type of work. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Maori.
Maori. I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe.
they're Pacific Island people, and we're Pacific Island people, but they're the southern hemisphere, and we're in like a northern
Right,
coastal rainforest. I don't think they're directly related unless you want to count all the way back to our common ancestors,
right,
human people.
right. When the earth was laid out differently, who knew who was
Yeah,
where, right? Barbara Long wants to know, have you connected with other Chilkat and Raventail weavers in and out of the Santa Fe area?
absolutely. I have.
All right.
Kadusne Ursula Hudson has been studying at IAIA and completing her degree, and she just did a phenomenal talk on the burden of, or the just gendered relations in traditional arts, which was hosted by Alaska Heritage Institute. If you want to look at it on their YouTube page. Um, she is, we started Chilkat weaving about the same time, but she's been an artist for a very long time in other formats behind that. Also, um, Lane. I keep thinking of people's not English names, and their traditional names aren't going to help you find them.
Oh,
But there's an artist who resides in the Santa Fe area who is in the middle of weaving a Chilkat dance robe using mountain goat hair, which was currently we weave with raven with Gotha. What is this called? Merino wool. Prior to using merino wool, we used mountain goat. And
hmm,
he's like thigh spinning. He's been doing phenomenal work. Yeah. Are
hmm.
there other weavers in the Santa Fe area I should know? Somebody type at me.
All right, y'all, get in there. Start typing. Um, I have a good friend that moved out there from Atlanta, so I'll get you her name. All right. Okay, this is from Christine Williamson. And Christine, I agree. We don't want a workshop, but would you, Ruth, would you bring back your band, the
Yeah.
headband, and just point out that wood piece and how you would start? So it's almost like you,
Yeah. This is a single bar loom. Um, And I usually have posts right here. I took it off to put something else on my loom that I'm working on.
right?
But for a raven's tail piece, you have what we call a header cord. It's either two pieces or a doubled piece of warp that runs across the loom
Uh-huh.
bar and
Uh-huh.
then down both sides. And that
Oh,
is warped up to a loom. I use a blanket stitch. It's just that
huh.
holds this piece here, and then doubled over pieces of warp that hang on to that piece. Like they're folded over and then they hang down straight.
So do you have to determine the length ahead of time? Like you want it 36
Yes.
inches long or 24, whatever? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right.
I have seen weavers add on or subtract warps and work it out beautifully. I haven't done it myself.
Mm. Well, Judy wants to know, are there current workshops in Ravenstail weaving?
Yes, there are currently 3 teachers at the University of Alaska Southeast who have open spaces in um, upcoming classes. Shadut Sa'ial, Ray Mills, and oh, I saw Sarah put Lane Reinhardt's name in the chat. Maybe Sarah, you can help me with who is the third person who's teaching at UAS right now. I know that there are cohorts that are ongoing. And then I offer Ravenstail workshops. I'm flying up to Klim 2 again in October to teach our third workshop in a series. And I know that there are many other weavers who will come to you to teach a workshop. Yeah, I think it is Lisa Fisher. Thank you, Katrina, for putting that in the chat.
We have the best viewers. Takes a village, you know? Now, this is a good question. Sue Sari wants to know a couple of things. One, what is, and other people are asking this too. What is a weavings made out of? Do you use cotton, wool? Is the warp one thing, the weft
Yeah.
another?
With the Ravenstail weavings that I do, it's 100% merino wool.
Okay.
The warp is thigh spun, so I don't card
Ah,
the wool and process it myself. I personally purchase pencil roving and use my hands and my leg and some water to spin it into warp. And then the weft, I use hand-dyed raven's tail weft that I typically purchase from a hand dyer or commission the colors I need.
okay. And another question from Sue is that, is this type of weaving traditionally men, traditionally women? There wasn't a tradition.
Yeah, historically it was women's work with the
Okay.
invitation of men who felt called to it, or we have lost a lot of the words for transgender or LGBTQ or like intersex people. We know that they exist. We have images and records of them, but our words for them are lost.
Mm,
But those people also would be, if you feel called to the work, you are welcome to the work of weaving.
I
And
like
we
that.
have several um, male weavers who are just phenomenal.
Um, hmm. Oh, yeah. Somebody wants to know, is it BA? Hi, BA. Um, you mentioned not dyeing material yet, but have you started processing your own material? So,
No,
mm,
not yet. Other than spinning warp, I don't do much of the creating materials yet. I'm on my way. I noticed
this is,
that there are some dye workshops coming up that HGA is offering, and I'm
we're going to get you started. We're going to get you
yes.
started. There you
I
go.
did also, I am a member of my local fiber art guild. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know that fiber art guilds are a thing until like 2023, which is when
Wow.
I joined HGA and also but when you join them, I now own 3 large dye pots and a whole lot of materials and a small inkle loom, and just people are so generous and supportive in fiber art spaces. I'm excited to learn and I have all the things I need. I just need someone to teach me.
Well, you're going to be down there. You might as well take a class. This
Yes.
is a great question from Lisa Schweitzer. She said, how do you take care of your hands? Because twining can be really hard on your hands.
Oh my gosh. I asked this in my very first class. Like, what do you do about weaving injuries? I was getting hangnails, fingernails were splitting, my hands are pretty dry. Um, and I purchase what is it called? It's you can buy it when you're a nursing mother and you put it it's like it's
Somebody
an
will pop it up.
oil. It's
Uh-huh.
an oil, but it's like really thick. It's derived from like the same sheep that this wool comes from. Lanolin.
Lanolin.
I remembered. I buy lanolin, and every time
Thank
I
you,
sit at my
Nancy.
loom, it's become a ritual. I sit at my loom and I put a little bit of lanolin. I work it into my finger, into this part of my fingernail bed. I stretch my hands. I'm really excited about the Tai Chi for Weavers class at Convergence,
Oh,
and I hope that it doesn't fill up because last time I tried to take a class like that, it was full before I could register. But
oh,
what I do right now is every time I step away from my loom and come back, I take care of my hands, my fingernails, which helps me take care of my hands. But I want to know more. I want to be skilled at taking care
great.
of me.
Thank you, Lisa. That was a great question. That's good to know. Um, Somebody else was saying that John Beard is teaching Raven's Tale at Damascus, Oregon.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Um, and then someone else has posted a story of the 2024 event for the Raven's Tail weaving in Juneau. They put
Yeah,
a link in here so you can see more about it. Um,
fantastic.
All right. There's so many questions. We're not going to get to them all today. I just want to thank you so much for being on here today. It was wonderful having you here. And I've learned so much. We could talk forever about this.
Let's hang out.
And we will at Convergence. So if you all are thinking about going to Convergence, here's a couple of classes that, you're all going to want to have to take. They're just wonderful. Um, So I want to thank everybody for coming today. I'm sorry, I'm reading all the comments over here. Ruth, thank you so much for being on here today. It was wonderful. If you would like to see her Instagram, it's Ruth underscore the whole Ruth. I love that. Ruth the whole Ruth underscore indig underscore art. So if you want to go check that out, please do. And again, come see her in New Orleans next summer. That lecture sounds amazing, and I want to know how to do that technique. So check that out. We were so excited to have you here today. And we want to thank Weave a Real Piece. I hope they're happy with this episode. The other thing I have to thank Ruth for is that we had someone who had to cancel on us at the last minute, and Ruth graciously stepped in at the last minute, changed her schedule, did the rehearsals and everything with us. And we really do appreciate you doing that, Ruth. That was very, very kind of you. And Warp, I think you're going to be happy with this episode also. I do want to let you know that Warp's programs is they're currently holding their 2025 International Textile Raffle, which include textiles from Guatemala, Mexico, India, Thailand, and more. So if you want to buy a ticket, it's only $5. And the proceeds help Warp's mission. And you can learn more about Warp and the raffle at weavearealpiece.org. So check it out. People are saying weaving warp is awesome. They are awesome. But it's a great way to support them. And in turn, they've supported us. Let's go support them. $5 raffle. What a deal. You might want to check it out. Weavearealpiece.org. Thank you all so much for doing that. If you want to sponsor an episode of Textiles and Tea, or your guild or your business or your friends, go online to wespendie.org and you can do that. If you have a specific date you want to choose, like Warp is, supporting their event coming up, you can do that also, or a particular topic or whatever. You can give us a call if you have questions, or you can go online and just choose a date. We'll take care of it. We have some things coming up. Speaking of convergence, we're going to have convergence and we're going to have spinning and weaving week. October the 6th through the 12th, 2025. Registration is now open. There are so many great things with Spinning and Weaving Week. If you've never been, it is the best thing going. You go about getting good bang for your buck. You do on this one. The tours in themselves are just wonderful. It's so wonderful to see these artists and their space and how they use their space. We've got thread talks. We've got some amazing thread talks coming up. Art Sparks is back. So if you want to learn how to do a craft, you can some of them will be hands-on and you'll do it online with them. Some of them will be teaching great topics. And we're going to have vendors and they're going to be showing the latest and greatest of their products, equipment, and whatever they sell. And the timing's perfect, right? October, you're getting ready to make all those gifts for the holidays. So check it out. October the 6th through the 12th, you can go online, wespendie.org, and purchase your ticket for the week. I encourage y'all to do that. We want to thank everybody for being a member or donating. When you join and donate, you support HGA in fulfilling our mission, which is to promote fiber, no matter what kind of fiber. And today was a great one, wasn't it? I learned so much, and I hope you all did too, about a whole area of fiber that I didn't know anything about. And that's what we want to do. We want to continue educating and bringing more fiber out into the world. So you can do that by joining or donating, or both, at wespendie.org. And also, since Convergence is coming up, you want to join anyway. So, and donating will also get you some advantages. So you can check that out at wespendie.org. If you've missed episodes, you can watch them. You can watch them on HGA's Facebook page, but it's only for 30 days. I know you're all sick of me saying this, but they've changed the rules. We used to be able to watch them forever, but Facebook's changed it. It's only 30 days, but we have YouTube. We're putting them on YouTube. You can watch them whenever you want. If you like watching something on YouTube, sign up, because when you do and you subscribe, you'll get a notice saying, And I'm seeing here that YouTube is up to date. You'll get a notice when a new episode's been uploaded, and you can go and watch it whenever you want. Watch it with a buddy. Tell somebody about it, and you all can watch it together. We are so excited. Next week, we have Kyle McKinnon Mansfield. She's going to talk to us about her tapestry weaving, and we're excited to have her there. What a great program today. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Happy tea.